the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Can you handle the truth about Rob Reiner, his son Nick, and what really happened in this house? If so, you found the right place. In Rob Reiner's own words, he was a filmmaker, actor, producer, husband, and father. People already have strong opinions about him, but this story goes beyond all of that.
Ambulance death investigation, South Chadbourne Avenue, code 2.
Coastal Unit here, DP is down, fireman requesting a backup.
Down on the pavement in the pre-dawn hours, a crowd had gathered outside Rob Reiner's house. But it wasn't a vigil, it was a feeding frenzy. Reporters stood around to get their scoop, and then there were the vultures.
Mr. Newing! Adderall's in town! 20 milligrams! What? Let that go!
I have everything on stream. I have thousands of viewers. I'll show you my footage. I have autism. I'm sitting here minding my own business.
Turn it down, please. Someone just died, though. We just want to keep the peace. We want to give
The all-important backdrop. The family's gate became a curious choice for reporters. The bodies were already gone, the suspect already caught, and yet they waited, snapping pictures of a house that had nothing left to show. Even a major media outlet like ABC couldn't wait to capitalize on the deaths, producing a documentary within just 48 hours, a turnaround so fast the bodies were barely cold. It wasn't a tribute, it was a calculated race to be first. Peripheral, thirsty voices were spotlighted, while the family and those closest to them hadn't even begun to grieve.
Like everybody else.
But before we get lost in the chaos of the headlines and the helicopters, we need to look at this from a different perspective. I know, I'm a puppet, it's weird, but I went down a research rabbit hole so dark it actually made me cry. I might not look serious, but a lot of what I have to show you is. We're gonna find some dark humor, take some detours, but by the end, you'll see how it all fits together. You might not like everything I'm gonna say, but you will learn something at least.
Get to the point. What is the problem here? It's always been clear that you've loved Ellen.
There's a story behind the story, a man who played many roles, but the most important one was at home as father to his complicated son.
So we wanted to know some of their biggest challenges as a couple.
I would say, certain issues with the kids. I mean, that, we have different ways of going about it. I mean, we're on the same page a lot of times, but a lot of times we have different approaches. And that can be a source of,
These intimate conversations show a side of Rob most people never saw. While we'll hear more from them later, decades before these reflections, he was on a much louder stage, becoming a household name as Michael Meathead Stivic on All in the Family.
What did you call me? Meathead, dead from the neck up. Meathead.
He played liberal counterpart to conservative father-in-law Archie.
We just don't see any evidence of God, that's all.
That's right, Daddy.
That's right, Daddy.
Beyond the shouting matches, a more deliberate game was being played. Without context, it's easy to miss who was pulling the strings and who the joke was ultimately on.
What's so funny? What are you laughing about?
That wasn't just a script, it was a language he had encountered long before the cameras were rolling. To see where it all began, we need to look back at his father and the home where he grew up in. As the firstborn of Carl and Estelle, Rob grew up alongside his younger sister Annie and much younger brother Lucas. By the 1950s, his father had already carved a path in comedy, propelled by thick skin and that quintessential Jewish quality called chutzpah. Carl skipped a grade, married at 21, and pursued success with relentless ambition. It's a sharp contrast to the generations that followed, those whose adulthood is cut short by a prolonged, unsatisfying, aimless adolescence. But Carl didn't have those mental shackles. When the network rejected him as the lead for his own show, Head of the Family, which would later become the Dick Van Dyke Show, he didn't stall, he pivoted and continued his extraordinary success mostly behind the scenes as principal writer.
What are you saying? How can he dislike me? I'm his father.
With the practicality typical of the greatest generation alongside their inclination for showbiz, Carl and Estelle helped provide a stable foundation for their children. Here she is in one of the movies Rob directed, also his best friend, fellow Jewish funny man Billy Crystal.
Oh, God. I'll have what she's having.
Both Rob's parents were first-generation Americans, born to immigrant families. It was a nice place to grow up back then. The Bronx neighborhoods were largely Italian, Jewish, and Irish, demographics that have now shifted to Hispanic and Black. When Rob was 6 years old, the Reiners upgraded to the green yards of affluent Scarsdale, New York. During Carl's early success in New York, he mingled with the top names in comedy, who just happened to be Jewish, including one very powerful figure in television, Norman Lear. Their friendship would become a significant part of Rob's life, helping to shape him both professionally and politically. The Reiner and Lear families became close, vacationing together on Fire Island, Long Island, New York. It was a magnet for artists, celebrities, at a time and place defined by a growing permissive culture. But for many gay men, they quickly spiraled into reckless extremes, like anonymous sex at places like the Meat Rack.
Young man, drop your clothes at the door. I say, young man.
The tragic consequences that followed are now buried beneath layers of nostalgia, selective memory, and the very pride used to sanitize the promiscuity and public indecency. But it was 1960, decades before that would all boil over, and the Reiners were headed to Hollywood. Fortunately, Rob was already 13, with his formative years behind him and a sense of self needed to navigate this new world in addition to his father's guidance.
Bobby, how about this daddy yours?
Hi, Rob.
Some birthday, huh, Dad?
How did they keep it a secret? They're such blabbermouths.
Well, you won't have to pick up the Chinese food on your way home from the show.
That's right.
Rob's father humbly downplayed his influence, but it was clear he nurtured Rob and used his humor, storytelling, and other good Jewish values instinctively or deliberately to build a supportive network for his children. But for most Americans, especially non-Jewish white ones, acknowledging and celebrating ties to identity and heritage can feel discouraged, even taboo.
What kind of a name is Stevie? Huh? Where you from?
Oh, Chicago.
I mean, what's your nationality?
I'm an American.
I mean, where are your people from?
They're from Poland.
Archie's character is forbidden to demonstrate any happiness of even a shred of kinship. He's a hollow effigy built to link heritage with misery and idiocy. He serves to subvert the viewer's community through ridicule, while creators like Norman Lear remain fortified within their own circles. But that communal connection, that in-group reference, is a natural, sensible, and even admirable approach, one that should be normalized for everyone, not just certain groups. It's a standard others could do well to emulate.
Well, show business rules. If they're black, then it's a gang. If they're Italian, it's a mob. But if they're Jewish, it's a coincidence, and you should never speak about it.
This dynamic shaped Rob's life. When he wasn't at Beverly Hills High School, his father took him under his wing, immersing him in an enclave of successful performers and writers.
In contact with the people that he associated with, also getting to watch him create and work on the Van Dyke Show. I went every single day, every summer of my teenage years when he was doing Van Dyke, and I learned.
This front row exposure to the industry's inner workings helped Rob land early roles as a teen and later an appearance on the original Batman series when he was 20 years old.
It's so sweet of Batman to send me flowers.
Batman?
The bond between the Reiners and the Lears in New York followed them all the way to California, with Rob visiting the Lears' home to play tennis on their private court, both as a child and later in his 20s, while starring on All in the Family. Because of their close connection, when Norman Lear began casting All in the Family, he didn't have to guess about Rob's character. To Norm, Rob wasn't just another talented 23-year-old. He was the son of a fellow Jewish friend, a young man he had watched grow up, dependable, responsible. Over time, Rob even said he saw Norman as a second father.
He played a huge role in my life, not just the fact that I got a chance to be on All in the Family, which was an incredible show, and that he gave me an opportunity to direct my first few films, but seeing how he conducted his life outside of show business was a big thing for me, and I looked up to him. And so I was lucky. I was very fortunate. I had my dad, who I look up to in terms of my work and how he informs the way I view things, and then Norman Lear in a bigger way of how I view the world.
What Rob saw as luck was actually deliberate men and a rigorous American framework shaped by Christian morality, individualism, and centuries of human struggle. It was refined and delivered to a generation through early television, like Leave It to Beaver.
Well, Beaver, it just goes to show you that us grown-ups can make mistakes just like you fellas.
He was raised within a traditional order, values shaped over centuries, now broadcast into the American home, teaching a sense of decency and order. But this peak of stability was short-lived. Enter the Norman Lear effect.
Bible here in the World War, WW2. You see, that dent there in the cover, that's where it was hit by a hunk of Kraut shrapnel. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I hadn't been wearing that Bible in my back pocket.
That tells us where your religion is.
Lear's media empire began to systematically dismantle those hard-won structures. It's a fascinating irony, a Hollywood Jewish elite creator using the veneer of a Christian household to mock the very faith they were portraying.
This is a Christian home. Get out.
He replaced discipline and reasoned discussion with exciting hot-button issues, served up fresh and seasoned to go down a very particular way.
I think that, if God had meant us to be together, he'd have put us together. Well, look what he's done. He put you over in Africa, he put the rest of us in all the white countries.
Well, you must have told him where we were, because somebody came and got it.
He also made sure to wash it all down with emotionally charged conflict. As live audiences hooted like baboons at families tearing each other apart for a punchline, a moral inheritance was thrown away.
I'm smart enough to bring on the paycheck.
Oh, that's a great shot she got him.
This generation consumed Lear's delicious poison, sophisticated hits that made viewers feel clever while feeding them a nightly diet of mental junk food. But not everyone swallowed it down. While sitcoms were busy making excuses for the state of things, film began to confront the raw realities the working class faced.
Each night when I return the cab to the garage, I have to clean the cum off the back seat.
But these films didn't have the frequency and the comedic effect of Norman Lear shows. So without the sugar coating of humor, the quiet values of decency were slowly drowned out by the roar of the crowd.
Tell her!
Lear wasn't just making people laugh and raking in massive profits. He was shaping the American psyche, presenting reality not as it was, but an illusion that would eventually collapse inside Rob's own home. Following his father Carl's example, Rob didn't wait long for love. At 24, he married Penny Marshall, a heavy smoker best known for her role on Laverne and Shirley, another show that normalized single women with 2 simp sidekicks. During their 10-year marriage, they never had any children of their own. However, Rob adopted her daughter Tracy and remained involved in her life long after their amicable divorce, a rarity in Hollywood. This brings us to Rob's second marriage to Michele Singer, the photographer behind the famous Art of the Deal cover, though she eventually shared her husband's distaste for the man he would later treat as his ultimate nemesis.
Barry Sonnenfeld was sitting there with me, and I look at this copy of Premiere magazine that's sitting on the table there, and there's a picture on the cover of Michelle Pfeiffer. And I said, I heard she's getting divorced. I had lunch with her like 6 months earlier on a professional thing, nothing.
Lunch?
Yeah, lunch. And I said, maybe I'll give her a call. I don't, I'm like grasping at straws. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I said, maybe I'll give her a call. And Barry says, no, you're not going to call her. He says, I have a friend in New York, her name is Michelle Singer, you're going to marry her. He says that, like that. And I said, who is she? She says, she's a friend of mine, she's a photographer, and I said, does she smoke? That's all I said. Because Penny was a big smoker. She smoked like 4 packs a day. I couldn't stand it around.
Rob downplays any romantic ability, yet he actually considered Michelle Pfeiffer as if casually adding her to his Amazon cart. I guess that's what they call chutzpah. The dynamic we hear in that recording would soon play out in this house.
As a young person and doing All in the Family, I used to go play tennis sometimes at Norman Lear's house. He had a house in Brentwood, and I used to say all the time, I could go over there, and I used to say, boy, if ever I get money, if ever I have some money to buy a house, this is the kind of house.
The green thumb?
Well, I don't have a green thumb, but the person who first owned this house was Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda actually planted all of these roses.
Actually, Henry Fonda constructed the house when it sat on a 9-acre farm, sold off and whittled down into these high-priced cubicles. Unfortunately, under Rob's ownership, a terrible crime would eventually occur here.
This room over here is what we call the ego room.
Looking at a property like this, you might wonder why a media mogul like Norman Lear would ever part with it. At 60 years old, Lear wasn't downsizing, he was moving up, literally. He bought a bigger property perched on a mountain far above the gritty, troubled streets below.
They're down there, I'm up here. I want more. I can never get enough. I want more. I need more.
I mean, you're at a stage where most people would be content to rest on their residuals. You're not.
No, there's a new conversation in the 90s, and I like to be part of the conversation.
Norman used to have a lot of political functions there. And so we moved into the house, and we wanted to add something to the house. We had to go to the Brentwood Park Association, and they said, well, you're not going to have like a lot of political things, are you? Like Norman, he always had I said, no. We had President Clinton there, and Hillary, and Al Gore, and actually we're having Nancy Pelosi come over Monday. But it's like we did the exact opposite. So a lot of political things have floated through that house.
This was the environment Nick was born into. Rob had achieved generational wealth. The game was won. But Rob wouldn't slow down, and he treated the discipline of a traditional father, much like those neighborhood rules, as something meant for other people.
We have different approaches, and that can be a source of,
Like discipline approaches.
Discipline and those kind of things.
I'll give you the perfect example.
I'm like the grandfather.
It's like when the boys were little, they were like, I don't know, 4 and 6 before our daughter was born. And I said, we really need to teach them how to make a bed. And our oldest son Jake goes, but Daddy, you don't make your bed. And Rob went, he's right. All right, that's it. We don't have to make. Yeah, so that's the discipline, the history of this household.
Right.
That audio reveals so much, but the children starving for structure, that's the real gut punch. Rob essentially abandoned his post, and Michele simply followed. Michele quickly shifts focus from the kids to Rob, taking the story back to the beginning of their relationship.
I had to teach him how to say hello, how to go and goodbye. I had to teach him how to tip. Right?
I tip a lot, but
now you do.
Sometimes I forget. She basically helped raise me.
That's such a nice thing to say, by the way.
She did.
Rob was 41 years old, a multi-millionaire director, yet Michele had to teach him how to tip. a jarring hypocrisy for a man who preached empathy to the world while forgetting the working class standing right in front of him. The lack of structure also seems to have fueled a bitter rift with Rob's mother, though Michele dismisses it with one word: jealous.
What didn't work with the families?
Well, she wasn't fully accepted. I mean, they.
Your family?
Yes, by my family.
And why was that?
You know?
Jealous.
I don't know what it is. I mean, you know.
And I tried for like 20 years to make it work. And
unfortunately, the topic was dropped. However, others were noticing a problem. Alanna Zabel, the family's private celebrity yoga teacher for nearly a decade, said Nikki's behavior was so extreme it inspired her first children's book, A Chair in the Air, about a difficult child named Little Nicky. She tried to get Rob and Michele involved in publishing it, but their family therapist warned it was best Nick not know about it. She later downplayed her observations, claiming he seemed like a regular boy, though this was what she originally said.
Nicky would barge in like the world was on fire, screaming into our yoga sessions. It was disruptive. He was really screaming. I have never seen a child like it.
With a degree in child development, she still claimed she'd never seen a child like this. Writing a book about him, then, is that a good idea? And when the family therapist said to hide it from Nick, is it still a good idea? If you think so, maybe you got what they call chutzpah. She even sued a wealthy client and friend over another children's book idea. Just another wellness merchant exploiting souls in limbo, drifting between a lost inheritance of a traditional faith and the cold arms of atheism.
The Pisces psychic feminine energy.
I've taken a few artistic liberties here, but all the words come directly from the book.
Nicky is full of big feelings and even bigger energy. So big, in fact, that one day his excitement accidentally sends a vase flying across the room. Overwhelmed and unsure how to fix his mistake, Nicky runs into the woods. There he meets a magical guide, Mohini Yogini, a wise and whimsical yogi who floats in with a calming breeze and a very special lesson. By the end of the story, Nicky doesn't just master a few new poses. He also finds the strength within himself to apologize to his mom with a full and honest heart. Nicky awoke at home. His mom was still crying. "Mom, I'm not perfect," he said, "but I'll keep on trying."
Those are the actual words from the book, which is bad enough. It might as well have been written like this.
Nicky, stop being neurodivergent and apologize to your mother for your lack of discipline. Look, the Christian God is dead and your father's a secular Jew. Just rub these crystals on your head and try manifesting some sanity. Oh well, gotta run. Time to make money from more celebrity yoga. Namaste, Nicky.
Despite Nick's numerous red flags even before puberty, Rob didn't take a step back or slow down. He remained consumed by the Al Gore campaign, flying across the country, while the crisis at home was improperly addressed. By age 11, a family friend who had known Nick his whole life observed ongoing incidents, noting,
"It did get physical sometimes. I'm not talking punches, but restraining him. It must have been early 2000 because he was around 11 and throwing the biggest tantrum. Rob just had him in a bear hug to restrain him. The tantrum was over nothing, but he had so much anger in his eyes. It was terrifying, and it happened a lot. He never outgrew it. He had tantrums in his 20s.
If you're seeing red, relax. It's just a Forrest Gump hat.
Why are you doing this?
I just felt like running.
Here's Nick at age 12. You could see his disheveled long hair and weight gain. At this age, Rob was working on 2005 film Rumor Has It. Not an important film, but a morally disturbing one. Aniston's character sleeps with a man who also slept with her mother and grandmother, and she abandons her own fiancé to do it. And he might be her biological father. At the same time, he packaged this as a light-hearted comedy. Moral boundaries were also quietly crumbling inside his own home. The next year, Nick turns 13. It's hard to know where Michele is, but Rob was busy voice acting in Everyone's Hero. It's the year right before Nick would become lost to addiction forever.
This one was an opportunity to watch with my kids, and they all had a great time, which was fun for me to see them all laughing. So it was great.
Clearly, Rob is enjoying his career. It isn't done out of financial necessity. Meanwhile, he's completely out of touch with reality. What you're about to hear is what was really going on with Nick at this time. The Dopey Podcast helps us understand. The hosts are Dave Mannheim and Chris O'Connor. Nick is a guest.
I was at this kid's house, and to make a long story short, we all took a lot of pills, some Percocet, Xanax kind of stuff. It was all party there, and one thing, I took some pills obviously, and one thing led to another, and it's me, this other dude, his sister, and we went up to his room, and he's like lying face down on his bed, and like not like passed out fucked up, like not responsive fucked up.
Yeah.
And like we're kids. I'm 14, 15. I don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah.
And like that whole classic thing, if I call the cops, I get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know? And so luckily his parents came home within like, a minute of that happening. They rushed him to the hospital.
Yeah.
They I think they pumped us. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm standing outside, and this woman says she's in AA, she's been sober for a while, and she starts, telling me her story, and I feel comfortable. And so I, out of guilt, seeing this guy be taken to the hospital, I say, I also took some stuff. And
what an earnest kid you are.
Just like the guy at the I'm calling your mom right now. So she goes inside, she calls my mom. I said, you're not doing this. Like, you don't understand. Like, if you tell I'm going to be in so much trouble. And, like, you don't have the authority. She's like, I'm doing it. Yeah. So my mom arrives, and as my mom's getting there, I'm like, okay, Mom, let's try to get out of here. Let's go. Yeah. And she's like, don't you have something to tell your mother? I was seconds away from not being in tragedy, and this stringy-haired bitch, she just says to me, can you please come back here? And so I have to explain to my mom that what had happened, and my mom being a hysterical...
So you were taking pills and your friend fell out.
Yeah, and that I had taken them too, and my mom being a hysterical Jewish mother, she, rushed me to the hospital, blah, blah, blah.
Nick also talks about how he lost his virginity.
Some kid that I met at outpatient rehab told me you could do this. That's how I knew how to do it. And I went over to my computer, got this woman's number, I called her up. I was about 14 or something, and her going rate was about $200. And so, and this is the part of the story that I don't usually tell, but I'll tell it anyways. I got $200 from my parents. I snuck in.
Well, what did you say to them? How did you get the money?
I didn't say anything. Like I was saying, I snuck into where I knew the money was, like the Pink Panther.
Oh, you stole $200 from your parents.
Right. I didn't say, hey, look, I'm going to, be with a hooker tonight. Do you think you have an extra $200?
You could have said there was a big field trip. I need $200 to go to the cookie factory or something.
It was also like 1 a.m. or something.
One has to wonder where the parents are while all this is happening at the house. Nick was 14 years old then, an age he should have been starting high school, but instead he was left to his own devices.
A spit-polished older brother who looks like me but just does everything right. Yeah. And I have a sister who just went off to college.
Oh, okay.
And I never went to high school, never went to college, never did any of that stuff.
Even though the property is wrapped like a fortress with tall towers of living fences, a clever workaround to bypass the standard 6-foot fence height limit, it turns the neighborhood into a maze of privacy rather than community. Far from the suburban dream Rob seemed to have taken for granted. Kids have to walk in the middle of the street here. It's not welcoming or friendly. It wasn't built for community, it was built for isolation. It's reminiscent of imposing security walls seen in low-trust, crime-ridden societies like Africa or Brazil. By participating in it, Rob effectively validated it, the flyover state mentality, access to Hollywood, Beverly Hills, high-end dining, city life culture, then retreat back to their multi-million sanctuaries, tweeting about how the rest of us should live. This isn't about money, it's about hypocrisy. Every year, Rob paid about $100,000 to the state of California in property taxes just for this one parcel. To put that into perspective, that's more than most American households earn in an entire year, and it doesn't even come with a sidewalk. Age 15, around this time his parents decided to ship him off to a wilderness program in Utah, isolated in the middle of nowhere. These rehab wilderness programs may help some teens, but they can also be dangerous, with reports of children even dying. Step right up, step right up. Let us take that icky responsibility off your hands with our Luxury Reformer 3000. We offer a proprietary blend of total sensory isolation, out-of-order gym equipment, and high-frequency kumbaya therapy. All for the low, low price of $70,000 a month. No whining, no tantrums, just your very own flawless miniature human. We guarantee something's gonna happen here. That very same year, 2007, Rob sent his 15-year-old son away. The warnings were even all over the news. He was strangely disconnected from the whole topic of addiction, even as it was being discussed at the highest levels of government.
And to turn your child over to somebody else and hope that they're going to love and protect your child, I think was very naive on our part. I think that what we need to do as a society and a community is provide much stronger home-based programs for children that are struggling, so they stay with their families and they stay with the community that they know and loves them.
It's even more disconnected than that. Carol O'Connor, Rob's old co-star, lost his son to addiction at 32 years old, the same age Nick was when he was arrested. O'Connor became a vocal activist.
Mrs. Hugh, this is my son. He started on drugs when he was 16. Drugs robbed him of his ability to love. Drugs killed his conscience. When his life became filled with horrifying hallucinations, he ended his life.
That was Rob's co-star who lost his son way back in 1995. Even though they were both liberal Democrats, they had different views about crime. O'Connor wanted law and order, while Reiner was convinced that all crime could be solved with money and focus on a child's first few years of life. Here he is in 1997 talking about it.
You will not find one single person in jail for a violent crime who had a great childhood. Because what happens to you in those first 2 or 3 years will lay the foundation for how you are going to function later on in life. If you have good, positive, nurturing experiences early on, you will fit into society in a comfortable way. You will succeed in school, you will do well with the opposite sex. It all comes down to attachment.
It's the voice of a man convinced he has the answers.
Here's somebody who's got it all figured out. Here's somebody who has the answer.
It's also strange that a powerful Hollywood figure gets to bend the president's ear with their half-baked notions, while others with proven traditional approaches don't get the same chance. Beyond the physical dangers, Nick himself talked about how these programs exploit vulnerable families by turning 12-step models into profitable businesses.
99% of the places say they're 12-step based, and they ripped the entire program, which is intended to be a free service, and they make money off of a program that if you relapse, they make even more money.
Another issue is that many kids return to the same environment that enabled their issues, making it hard to apply any lessons learned in the isolated setting of Utah, for example. Also, there's a frequent theme at these rehabs. He meets fellow addicts who only guide him deeper into degeneracy. At 16, he meets a heroin addict at one of these rehab places. It plants a dark seed, will eventually see surface at 18. While his son was getting strapped into what would become a horrible lifelong roller coaster of rehab stays and drug addiction, including bouts of homelessness, his father remained absorbed in politics, now celebrating an election that promised change. But bombings continued overseas and problems persisted for the working class. 2011. Nick was 18, no diploma, no future. His life revolved around drugs and rehab. The vertical red lines here mark rehab stays. rough estimates based on interviews and Nick's own recollection. This is when things start to take a sharp turn.
When I was 18, I was in a sober living, and I call him up because I knew he was really into heroin at the time. And he comes and he picks me up, and I've never even smoked heroin, sniffed heroin, nothing.
Yeah.
He takes me to downtown LA. We go to Skid Row. He gets. I'm like, what kind of position am I in?
Skid
right
Row
now?
is the worst.
Once Nick became an adult, it still wasn't too late to intervene, but he would come and go, living in the guest house. His parents' approach, treating rehab as punishment rather than setting consistent boundaries, only reinforced the cycle instead of breaking it. Amid his mother's polished Instagram post, 2013 brought two milestones: Jake's graduation and the first time the police were called to the house for Nick, a moment her camera never captured. There's a sense of resignation now, a desperation to escape his own mind in any way he can. One night, he takes LSD yet again from a person he met at one of those rehabs.
So I was with a friend from a program, and we were smoking a lot of pot, and he had a tab of acid on him that he said he didn't want anymore, just one tab. So he gave it to me. We're smoking weed, and then he goes, I have to leave. And I was like, what do you mean you have to leave? Like, it's only been 30 minutes that I took this. And
it's not even kicked in yet,
It's
really.
not even kicked in.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm just really stoned. And he's like, I've got to go back to my mom. She has to see me. Like,
Yeah.
she has to see me get in bed. So I said, okay, fine. So now I started to get really upset. I started to get really sad and really like bad. And I started to have this thought process of like, I'm tripping by myself. God forbid I do a horrible thing like they, jump out a window. I get so, disillusioned that I do something crazy. So I was like freaking out, and it was all mixed into the trip. And it was just around that time when the Cleveland House of Horrors, where that guy Ariel Castro held those three women.
Oh yeah.
And that somehow worked its way into the trip.
Yeah.
So basically, I was like, if I'm alone, any number of terrible things can happen. It's best for someone to know about this. And my parents had already been through a long process of in and out of rehabs with me, so they'd see me do coke and heroin. So I didn't feel like saying I was on acid would be too big of a deal. So I walked into my parents' room. The lights were off. They were asleep. And I said, guys, I have something to tell you. And they're like, whoa, what is it? And I was like, I took acid tonight. My mom was like, oh, I can't deal with this. Fuck this shit. I'm going to bed. And she ran downstairs and went and slept on the couch. And then I'm with my dad and I'm lying in bed, tripping my ass off, thinking about the Cleveland House of Horrors. And he's like, calm down, buddy. It's okay. I used to do this in the 60s. You'll calm down eventually. It won't be forever. And I was just trying to and he just talked me down for 8 hours straight while
That's
I
really
came
sweet.
off acid. And they never grilled me for it. They never, and it just sort of was
I think
like
if I were parents and my kid came and volunteered information like that's a really good way they handled it. Instead of being punitive, you know what I mean? They just were helpful.
Yeah.
So you sat you were laying in bed. Were you in the same room as your dad, or?
Yeah, we were lying side by side on a bed.
Oh my god!
Looking up at the ceiling while he told me about the 60s.
Oh my god, that's wild, dude. That's a good story.
We can place this LSD incident around 2013, since Nick references the Ariel Castro kidnappings, whose rescue happened that year. Nick was 20 at the time. Both co-hosts Dave and Chris seem to think it's a sweet story, but in context it wasn't. Nick had been in and out of rehab since age 15. This wasn't a one-time experience, and he wasn't some little boy crawling into bed with his father for comfort. While it's understandable not to alarm someone on a bad acid trip, Rob went further, romanticizing drug culture as a rite of passage.
Turn on, tune in, drop out.
It's unclear if Rob really did acid himself, but at Nick's age, we do know he was living a very different life, one with traditional values and working, and he never even drank until his 40s.
We go to this bar on Canal Street, and we go to a bar. He's 41 years old. He's never had a drink in his life, and he's never ordered a drink in a bar. He didn't know what to order. And I'm thinking, what's going on here, you know? Yeah. So he orders a port.
I didn't know. I ordered a port. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've been to bars, but I don't drink, you know, so...
Anyway.
He's defensive, a willfully sheltered man posing as an authority on realities he never even bothered to learn. The following year, in 2014, at age 21, it was more of the same. Police were called again, this time for a noise complaint. The report notes gone on arrival. His mother, Michele, explains that she practiced the same conflict avoidance herself. She would either leave or turn her attention to basically controlling other people, ignoring the disorder inside her own home.
How do you fight when you fight?
How? Very loud.
Loud.
Very loud.
Yeah, 2 loud Jews that can go pretty good.
Because fighting is
loud and louder.
is a big important thing. When people say, well, we never fight, I go, oh, well, then you're probably so repressed.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and probably not have a good marriage.
Right.
Because you do fight. I mean, that's what happens. We don't fight a lot, but we do.
So when you fight, you both yell.
A lot of screaming, yeah.
Yeah. There's a quick escalation. You know, it goes from 0 to 60 very, very quickly.
And who makes up?
I think it's probably even, I would think. Don't you think?
Yeah, we're not great at it, but we get through it. I walk out of the room. That's the big complaint.
Yeah,
she'll walk out. That's how I go cool off, and then I come back in.
And you're saying there's no way you could
if I'm set off, there's no way to, once I'm set off, that's it. I mean, then I feel horrible afterwards.
That brings us to 2016. Nick was 23. This year was swarming with activity. Too many events to fit on the timeline. It's the year Nick made this strange home video where he can be seen doing some questionable behavior, including smoking up with his younger sister. Not a good influence on her. It was also the year Rob joined Twitter. His very first tweet about Donald Trump. It was also the year of Being Charlie, the first and only film Nick would work on with his father, about addiction, while Nick was still struggling with it, still drowning.
You don't seem very fiery to me. You seem like you might just...
I get crazy.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to set me off.
No. Some big blow-ups there.
No, we both can get pretty...
You don't roll.
The truth is, Rob never gave Nick the support he'd received from his own father. It really shows in this next clip.
Did you find at a time when Nick needed you that you were also maybe really busy with a movie that you were working on? Because making movies, making TV shows does take a lot of work, be it on the set, reading the scripts, or just dealing with the business behind the scenes.
That's a better question to ask Nick, because I don't know if I was as available as I might have been, but that's something that you could answer. I mean,
what was the question? Sorry.
He wanted to know if being involved in show business and all that took me away from you to any degree that
No.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Rob admits nothing, shifting the onus onto Nick, his son, who plays the expected part with zero nuance. It's a tag team of deflection where even the fawning interviewer moves on, blind to the power imbalance of an addict financially tethered to a father the world worships.
I believe we'll win. I believe, Hillary will beat him. He's a xenophobic, he's a racist, and he's a misogynist, and he's a liar. And so
it's a recurring pattern. The politics takes over and the son is forgotten. Watch this interviewer, clearly not listening to Nick, just biding her time to get to the famous father.
Instead of being like, I'll do that one-size-fits-all thing that, doesn't work for a lot of people.
I cannot let you go without asking about this current political climate.
Uh-oh, here we go.
We need to do this. Remember, this
Okay.
is ABC News
All right.
at the end. I will say, I have to hold you to this. Last fall, you had said by the time the primary process...
All I did was speed it up 4 times the speed. ABC made the edit because he just kept going on and on. Compare that to the Howard Stern show interview. Nick is nervous, but it's a slightly more relaxed room, and he's a fan, so he admits the film was sanitized to be less depressing.
the drug use got bad. You had to go to a rehab.
I went to several.
Yeah. Is that reflected in the movie?
Yes.
We see all that.
Yes, you see
It's
it.
not exactly my life. I mean, mine was a little bit more fucked up. I was also a lot fatter back then.
Right.
And, times were a little bit, it was too depressing to put on, so we a little light.
2016 was also the year Nick debuted on the Dopey Podcast. Dave had reached out after seeing him on the Being Charlie press tour, despite never having seen the film. Whether Dave genuinely valued Nick or was simply adding another story to his collection is hard to say, and maybe beside the point. What we do know is that Nick always had to be a certain way around his father. Even on the film set, the one place he should have expressed himself, he couldn't. On the Dopey Podcast, though, with one simple question from Chris, the floodgates open.
It don't sound like, did you like the movie, or is it... You didn't love the movie?
I feel like I didn't get to express how I truly felt in it.
Well, that was where I was. How much creative control did you have?
1/3, and 1/3 technically, and 1/8 realistically. I said to them, "Listen, I'm not in the position to do this. I'm not a quote unquote sober guy. I'm gonna have to go on to these talk shows." They said, "You got to do it." They want the whole father-son angle. It just shows you how disgusting the
of course.
I mean, just the story out there. And so I just went out there and I just realized, look, I'm have a voice to some degree. I'm gonna say what I gotta say while I'm here.
Like, I'm sure it put you in a really bad spot.
It did. It was hard.
Was it really uncomfortable?
Yeah. It was uncomfortable, but I felt like it was like part of the job, part of what I had to do.
It was the job. Let me ask you a question. You don't have to answer.
No, I like where you're going.
Would you get high afterwards, after the appearance?
Yeah, I would. I'd smoke a joint on the roof of my apartment.
Let me ask you something
else.
Please, he's answering the question.
And in a very hard to be this honest, but right? Should I? I mean, yeah, I would. I would not ever go on to these things like, coked up or anything like that. I try to be straight, use the appearance as my motivation to be straight, do as best I could on it, and then afterwards enjoy a joint.
Was your dad? Did your dad know you were getting stoned?
Yeah.
Would he get pissed?
No.
He didn't give a fuck. He's a hippie, your dad.
The reason
right?
He's a hippie.
Yeah.
And they're very understanding.
An actor who was on the set of Being Charlie said this.
When I was on set, I noticed that him and his son had this kind of weird relationship. Like, they were definitely bickering, and they weren't filtering themselves around one another, and they would kiss on the lips, which I would never let my parents kiss me on the lips. It's not me. That was them. While
Nick's periodic homelessness and addiction continued, his mother, Michele, was on Instagram posting an old photo of Melania Trump, a subtle, mean-spirited attempt to slut-shame another woman's past. It's hypocritical given her progressive leanings and her daughter Romy's own social media presence. Clearly an authentic, serious person, a dedicated geologist. With the cries for help getting louder and more public in 2016, Michele chose that year to play pen pal to a convicted murderer. She was still writing him the day before her own murder, extending grace to a stranger while her own son was clearly drowning. In this next clip, Nick explains he's never had faith in God. Dave tries to help with a substitute and points to Chris as devout, but Chris comes across as flippant. If you listen closely, you can even hear him inhaling from a pipe right in the middle of this spiritual discussion. Shortly after these recordings, Chris would die from an overdose, leaving Dave as the only one to survive with his life and his sanity.
And I tried, I'm closed-minded, I don't know.
You're a young drug addict, come on.
And look, I can get to the first, I can admit that I'm powerless, I have a drug addiction, but when and I'm just going to be, really can't, when it gets to the sort of it's up to you to interpret, but the God situation, it's just physically hard for me to get there and have that be so much of a foundation for something that was so hard for me to get a hold of in the first place.
But didn't they give you, I'm not such a God, Chris is a devout God guy.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest God guy, and my favorite thing, my sponsor is an atheist, and what he always says is gift of desperation, G-O-D. So your gift of desperation.
A group of drunks or
but gift of desperation, Nick was desperate. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's something that I feel like you can hold on to.
But I can resonate with what he's saying. If you have big walls around that concept and you go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting, the speak in there is extremely Judeo-Christian.
Big time.
And it sounds like kind of like Bible thumpers, Torah thumpers, or whatever. That's what you get.
Torah
That's what you hear.
thumpers. There's no such thing. And even if it's not, you tune out the good stuff because you're getting
you hear something.
And you're
praised
freaked
on.
out. You're freaked out.
You're freaked out. And
I hear that.
Dave's advice doesn't land, and that restless energy will eventually push Nick away. In 2017, Nick destroyed the guest house while out of his mind on drugs.
I got totally spun out on uppers. I think it was coke and something else, and I was up for days on end, and I started punching out different things in my guest house.
Likely the reason for the third police call to the property. That same year, while in Maine, he suffered what he describes as a cocaine-induced heart attack. He eventually shared these details on the Dopey Podcast in 2018. In this next clip, recorded just 1 month after co-host Chris died of an overdose.
What's going on?
The same old stuff. Snoop, T-ball.
Yeah. That's fair enough. You writing? Nick wrote a big movie.
Oh, wow.
A big movie about a drug addict who couldn't get clean.
I'm a big-time screenwriter, baby.
He's a big-time screenwriter, baby.
Nice.
I sent Nick my script. It's only taken him 2 years to read half of a 22-page script. Unbelievable.
I'm a slow reader.
Nick handled it with a sense of humor here, but later Dave admitted the script nagging likely drove them apart. It's true, Dave seemed to treat Nick as a stepping stone for his ambition. There's also a certain flippancy to it all, especially for a podcast that's supposed to be moving away from drug stories and toward recovery.
Could you believe it that we got Artie Lang on the show and within 2 weeks Chris would be fucking dead?
Yeah, that was the other thing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nick,
It's honestly unbelievable that you got him on.
oh, that's you think that after Chris dies, you're still shocked that Artie came on Dopey. That's so funny. You saw Artie.
I don't think I can emphasize this enough. What we just heard was only 1 month after Chris died. In this next part of that episode, Nick seems more focused on cigarettes rather than human connection. And that would be the last time he ever saw Chris alive, or one of the last times.
I called him a few times while I was there, and he even came and visited me, and he brought me cigarettes while I was there.
By the way, I'm not cutting off any deep moments. Nick simply proceeds to ramble about various rehabs he's been in and out of, and even admitting that smoking pot all the time has affected his memory. Something you don't even need a prescription for in California.
You know, this is why it sucks to smoke weed and not remember anything.
His father actually gave this episode a retweet, but without any comment. It begs the question, did he even listen to it? Once again, Nick's voice was out there, but Rob wasn't paying attention. The tweet was like a message written in sand, quickly buried under endless waves of political posts. Even his youngest child, Romy, mimicked his rhetoric, perhaps like Nick, looking for a way to be seen by a father lost in his own stormy sea of politics. Instead, Rob continued as usual, pushing debunked narratives.
But then he gets into office, and there are good people on both sides in Charlottesville.
It was about one side wanting to tear down statues and the other wanting to leave them up. It wasn't about white supremacists. President Trump explicitly condemned any extremist, but media left that out. As they say, a lie is halfway around the world before the truth can even get its pants on. But even with the truth standing right there, Rob refused to look, a habit that extended to his own son, and looking away has consequences. 2019. Nick is now 26. Most families never call the police in their entire lives. Yet in 2019, the police were called 2 additional times, that year bringing the total to 5. Here's one of the appearances Rob was making.
People have accused you of being a coastal elite. You're from New York and you live in Los Angeles.
All that garbage. And I actually had a government job for 7 years, in California. So, anyway, the point is...
This so-called government job was really an activist role leading a celebrity-backed tobacco tax initiative, not a 9-to-5 job. He worked in Hollywood the entire time. He was never working class, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's yet another example of misrepresentation and preaching from inexperience, and he also resigned amid a spending controversy.
The point is, the two most important issues that I care about is one, the environment, because that's affect the whole planet, and two, the survival of democracy.
Homelessness, drug addiction, mental health struggles, none of it made it onto his priority list. He had so many platforms to advocate for drug addiction, early recognition, treatment, prevention, but instead he framed himself like a savior to the entire earth and democracy itself. 2020, COVID-19. He claimed to care about COVID spreading, but he only had tunnel vision for Trump. He didn't hold his own side accountable, even when figures like Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi ignored safety measures, showing his concern was more about politics than public health.
Shut it down!
Are you a Christian?
He made one tweet about his father's death, then right back to politics. It's also reported that Nick was placed under a 1-year mental health conservatorship at this time. From 2021 to 2023, it was more of the same. Rob was still in Hollywood, still deep in politics, and his Twitter was relentless. Republicans, Christians, non-voters, anyone outside his lane were all branded fascist, white supremacist, anti-Semites to him. 2024, Rob produced WWJD, God and Country. What would Jesus do? But it's like letting the money changers decide what Jesus would do, using Christianity to attack Christians, portraying those who value America's Christian roots as extreme. Peak hypocrisy, partisan outsiders acting as arbiters of faith and they don't even share it. The writer, the producer, the director, all secular Jews. It feeds right into persistent conspiracies. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Was there something special about being Jewish in Brooklyn at that time in New York?
No, everybody was. So that we never felt any anti-Semitism or any strangeness. Had we been transported to Nebraska or Kansas or Abilene, Texas, yes, we would have felt. They would have said, what the hell is that thing there talking in that Jew talk? What the hell is so little itty bitty people are so short? So fun.
It's given unto you these 15. Wait. 10 commandments.
That same year, America elected President Trump a second time. Rob tweeted this just 11 days after an assassination attempt left Trump bleeding on stage with multiple attendees shot and one dead. Unable to regulate his anger over Americans voting for Trump again and different opinions on Twitter and Blue Sky, he abruptly deleted both accounts in an emotional, self-destructive act. Mind you, this wasn't some teenager, this was a 77-year-old man. Despite the usual happy faces of his family, the chickens were finally coming home to roost. At 32, Nick was a frayed wire, his brain a dark laboratory where new prescriptions collided with unknown street drugs. On December 13th, 2025, Rob and Michele brought Nick wearing a hoodie to fellow celebrity Conan O'Brien's formal party, afraid to leave him alone. It was a haunting display of enabling. When Nick began acting strangely and guests started calling for help, the host reportedly announced,
"It's my house. It's my party. I'm not calling the police."
Pure elitist hubris. They weren't just enabling Nick, they were strutting a Norman Lear version of reality, this time at their own peril, in total denial that Rob and Michele brought a danger usually left to the lower classes. Many will look at the security footage and see only a guilty criminal, but they're only seeing a single moment. When we step back and see a little more of the timeline, we can now see something different. The reality is far more damning. a collision of grossly, improperly addressed childhood neurodivergence, decades of enabling, and a brain chemically altered over many years. Calling Nick a demon seed avoids responsibility. While his siblings didn't turn into killers, that doesn't prove the parenting was great. And as a middle child, Nick's special needs and his vulnerability to addiction were easier to overlook. Nothing's ever perfect, but in previous generations, media reinforced basic discipline and warned against drugs. Today, we laugh at them or dismiss them as corny, goofy, or stuffy, yet they offered a moral framework.
Molly, if you love me, kill me, please.
Everyone said Rob loved his children, but love isn't a bear hug, a handout, or a life without borders, rules, or purpose. Love is saying no. It's taking the sabbatical, skipping the next trip to Italy or $1 million deal. Love isn't pretending everything is fine, outsourcing responsibility, or trusting taxes to solve it. Love is the radical decision that your son matters more than anything else. Love is your time, your focus, and your wealth if you have it, not to escape, but to stay in the trenches, to hire live-in professionals and to oversee them so they don't turn into vultures. Love is the 24/7 watch. Love is the willingness to truly know your child, to sacrifice your comfort, your status, your reputation. And if that fails, love becomes the institution, the locked door that keeps them safe, because you don't let your own child or anyone that broken wander the streets. It wasn't just Nick's life on the line. By refusing to set boundaries, Rob gambled with the safety of the partygoers, his neighbors, and the addicts in rehab who were truly fighting for their lives. Rob's refusal to see his son clearly didn't just fail Nick. It became a public hazard for everyone he encountered. The only dark grace is that, unlike so much urban crime, this deadly disaster remained quarantined inside the house. Whew. This one took a lot out of me. Literally. What do you think about all of this? Subscribe if you want. If you really want to get crazy, you could buy me a coffee or a needle and thread. No pressure, and please, take care of yourself.